Coming up on episode 398 of Wheel Bearings, we got the Chevy Corvette, the Ford E-Transit, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the new Dodge Ram HDs, the Honda Passport, first road trip in an Aptera, the Icon Electric Bronco, Håkan Samuelson's back as Volvo CEO, and Hyundai shows off some new stuff in Seoul. All that and more coming up next. This is episode 396 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Abul-Samad from Telemetry.
I am Nicole Wakeland from Carbuzz.
And I'm Roberto Baldwin from SAE International, and sometimes some other places like Wired and Ars Technica. I always forget to mention those places because I write for them too. But my job is SAE.
They're the ones that pay the full-time bills.
Yeah.
Right.
The Wired and the Ars things are just like fun.
Extra,
a little extra.
Well, Nicole.
Yeah.
We're still catching up on the stuff that you did when you were gone for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
So why don't you start off with what you had sometime during that period.
Okay, so I'll start off with I'll pick this one. I'll start off with a Hyundai. Where was that coming? Hyundai.
Well, if you're in Korea, you guys can't see this on the video, but Robbie's got an Ioniq. Is that a refrigerator magnet?
No, it's a pin.
They
had pins. I have an Ioniq 5 somewhere. I don't know where it's at.
Well, that's what I had a couple weeks ago. The Hyundai Ioniq 5, which I drove at the launch not that long ago. But this time I had a chance to, spend a little more time with it. I still like this. I think they did a good job redoing this. They have now the XRT, which is their off-road trim, which is, I feel like it's off-road light. Like, it was solid. It did a little off-road thing, but it's hard when OEMs say their car off-roads. You're like, well, how off-road do you mean? What that means to a person who...
Is that what you had, the XRT this time?
I did not have the XRT. But I drove that at the lot. I had the Limited, I believe it was. Sorry, guys, this was
the regular old Ioniq 5.
Just the regular old Ioniq 5, which I really like. I like the regular old Ioniq 5. I think it's good. I love the whole pixel design thing that Hyundai is doing. I know people either love it or hate it. I don't know if it's some sort of retro nostalgia for me from back in the 80s, but I love all the little pixels everywhere. Do you guys like the pixels everywhere?
I love the pixels. I like the retro. I like the futuristic retro design. I like that it looks a little bit like a 90s hatchback, like a Honda Civic hatchback, but like from the future at the same time. I really like the design quite a lot. That's one of the reasons why I really like the car. And then the fun byproduct is that it's stupid, efficient, and roomy, and all the things you're probably going to say next.
Yes, all those things Robbie said, I'm done. But what I love, it's like inside and out. It's got this very future vibe, but it's so comfy and it's so attractive. And the pixel thing, although the pixels, what was Russ's complaint? So there's no H on the steering wheel. It's got 4 little pixels and they light up and they change color, not like brilliantly, just like soft pastel kind of springy looking colors, but they change color depending on what you're doing. Like they do one thing when you go backwards, they do another thing. Like I saw them do purple, I saw them do white, and I saw them do red. I think red, somebody was coming behind me when I was going back. It's like all angry. But he didn't like it. He's like, why are they changing colors? I'm like, well, if I looked it up, it means different things for the different colors. He's like, how would you know that? I'm like, well, they told me it means different things, different colors. How would the average person know what those colors meant? I sat there for a second. I went, I don't really know.
All you really need to know is red means danger. That's
right?
it. That's all you read.
Russ is wrong about there not being an H.
There is an H on there?
Well, the 4 dots.
The 4 dots is Morse code for H.
Oh my gosh, wait till I tell them that. He's going to be... I did know that too.
So angry.
He's going to be such an angry nerd when this show is over. And I'm like, guess what? You've been called out by another engineer, no less. Oh, it's going to make him really... He's going to be all cranky. But so that was like... he was wrong, but that's what he didn't like. I like that it's very roomy. It's very comfortable. And they put a rear wiper on it. There was no rear wiper on it at one point. And
mine doesn't have a rear wiper, and we needed one the other day. And every time I'm like,
It was such like I don't know what was the original rationale. I believe it was because
for aerodynamics.
Aerodynamics.
I'll give up the couple of miles to be able to see what the heck is happening outside of my car. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they decided to do that. It's very roomy. It's got a lot of cargo room. There's 59 cubic feet behind the first row and 26 just behind the second row. So it's got, I mean, that's a good amount of room. It's like crossover-y SUV-ish. So it's not huge, but it's still surprisingly roomy inside. I like the tech that they have in here. There's a 12.3-inch infotainment touchscreen. You got the wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and you also have a 12.3-inch instrument cluster. So it really looks quite good. I think it's the design is what I love on this. Now there's a bunch of different options. There's a long range battery and there's a standard range battery. And then there's all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive. And then there's the XRT, which is only all-wheel drive. And all those things are different numbers. So it's a little confusing. You have to I have a little chart. So you'll get anywhere from, at the low end with a standard range battery, you're going to get 245 miles. At the high end, long range, rear-wheel drive, 318. And then in the middle are your all-wheel drive trims. You have the XRT, which is the off-road one. So it's got a little bit more stuff on it. It's a little heavier. So it gets 259 miles. And then just the straight up all-wheel drive for the range gets 290. So you're over 300 only if you go with long range in rear-wheel drive, which might be a deal breaker for some people.
Not the limited. I think only on the SEL.
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Because it's got 19-inch wheels or 18s instead of 19s.
So it's, and this is something that I feel is possibly the biggest challenge for people shopping for EVs for the first time is that, when you're buying a gas car, you're used to a small number of things you have to look at when you look at your range, right? Which is your fuel economy. Okay, this is the fuel economy. It goes up or down by, a mile or two if you're doing certain trims, but it's pretty straightforward. This all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, long range, short range, SEL, this, and there's so much to figure out in this that it can get a little overwhelming. And I feel like you have to, I think they should all just have a nice little chart for people. They don't, not Hyundai specifically, they meaning the OEMs.
Yeah, they really don't have a really easy, here you go. Here's a pamphlet. When you walk in, here's the pamphlet. This is what everything does.
Or even if you go to their websites, when you go, it'll say, up to 300 and whatever this is, 18 miles per charge. Okay, but which one and what are the other ones? And can you do a nice just little comparison chart for me so I can see what my power is and I can see what my range is for the various trims? Because from 245 miles to 318 miles, that's a huge difference. Yeah. And if you somehow aren't entirely following that, especially if it's the first time you're looking at an EV, it's easy to sort of get lost in the numbers. I wish they were a little bit more clear. And again, not a Hyundai criticism, just a auto industry. Figure this out and make it easier for people to figure it out. Because I just don't,
Yeah, I think there's on one hand there's we don't want to overwhelm people with information because it makes it confusing, but at the same time there is information that people sort of need to know, and
right.
I think I'm still big. I'm gonna harp on this until someone puts me down. The miles per kilowatt hour. I think that's a level. That's a measurement of efficiency. It's and you can tell people 1 mile per kilowatt hour is sort of almost the equivalent of 10 miles per gallon. 4 miles per kilowatt hour, it's pretty much the equivalent of 40 miles per gallon. That's when you put it in that terms, people are like, okay, but then also your battery pack will charge at this level, but then it is this size battery pack. Also, if you get rear wheel drive,
right?
Oh, by the way. So
they're so complicated.
On one hand, I want to give everyone all this information, but on the other hand, I'm I don't want to break their brains. They're just trying to buy a car.
It always feels so hard when I have to write up a review of an EV, especially something like this, where I want to make out so I made a little chart, right, to show what the different things. And I swear to God, it took me 3 tries. I'm nope, that's less clear. Nope, that's not it. Trying to find the way where you can have the fewest number of boxes and show all the information you want to show. I'm I just need to make an 800 line, 32 column spreadsheet. Do you think that will work in the story? Like, it's very hard to figure out how to do it.
Your editor will be just fine with that.
I'm sure they'll be totally cool with that.
Yeah,
so you find these, you're just, it's not easy to communicate, and it's not easy to understand. It's just not. So I guess from that, it's not Ioniq 5 specific, but when you're buying an EVB, just really look, really read, really check it out. Make sure you're totally understanding. And if you don't, either ask at the dealership or do some digging around online, or look for reviews from reputable sources that you trust and see if they've broken it down more easily than what the OEM breaks it down. Because it's not, this stuff just isn't easy to break. Half the time where I get all this, I have to go into the media page and look at a spec thing and pull it up from the specs. It's not readily available for consumers, not because they're hiding it. I think it's just kind of what Robbie was saying. They don't want to overwhelm people with data, but I'm like, well, you don't have to overwhelm it. It doesn't have to be like you load up your website and all you see is data, but have a little click link for more, like little asterisk, click. Here's how it all breaks down. Just a little asterisk, a little pop-up chart like you do for engine specs sometimes.
One automaker is going to do it well. They're going to figure out the best way to do it, and then everyone else should just follow.
And that'll be brilliant. Whoever it does, I will sing their praises, because it needs to be more easily done for people. Yeah. So the other thing to cover in this, in terms of pricing, you again have a pretty big spread for price. That lowest range version of the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which is the SE with rear-wheel drive, and the standard range, it's $42,500. So, okay, fine. It's not super affordable, but that's not outrageous for what you're getting. But if you climb all the way to the top and you go with a limited with all-wheel drive, you're looking at $58,100. So that's a pretty big spread in
the
price.
XRT is about the same, right?
It's slightly less. I have the XRT down as $55,400, which is still it's the second most expensive way that you can buy this. So the limited's the top, and like with all-wheel drive, and the XRT, which is standard all-wheel drive, right beneath it. That's a lot. It's a lot for a vehicle. Now, is it worth it? I mean, I think it's worth it in the middle. I don't know that I'd go all the way to a limited because the thing
SEL is a sweet spot with this vehicle.
Exactly. Because the SEL has the power, it has the range. You can get it with all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, depending on what you want. And it's a nice interior, because in the end, like if you're getting a limited and it's a Hyundai makes beautiful cars. They make lovely interiors. For the price, they're a great deal. But you're not getting a luxury car for that $58,100. It's still mass market inside. So I think you're paying too much for the bells and whistles.
It's Hyundai nice inside, exactly. But it's not almost $60,000.
Correct. So I think those limited trims are a little bit tough to swallow. But you hit it, Robbie. The SEL.
You get a lot of tech. You get a lot of tech. A lot of tech features that seem cool, but the reality is you probably won't use most of them. Right. I mean, I have an SEL. That's why we got the SEL, because
you do. Okay.
Yeah, so we have an SEL. That's the sort of the nice center. The middle spot. It has It has most of the features, the ones you'll actually use, and then there's a few things maybe up in the limited that I'm like, oh, we don't have this, we don't have that, but we're not missing them in our vehicle. It's not like we're like, man, I wish we had gotten the side, the side mirror cameras, so whenever I put the blinker on, I can see my blind spot. Or you can just do the thing you've been doing all your life and check your blind spot.
Do you like the cameras that pop up side to side?
I like them a lot, but it's not like something I'm missing.
It takes
a little while to get used to, though.
I can't get used to it. So it pops up in the dashboard in the
instrument cluster,
right. Yeah. So remember Honda, what do they use to is it still
Lane
there?
Watch.
Lane Watch.
It was only on one side. It was very weird.
Yeah, it was only on the passenger side. That's what we have on our Civic.
Wasn't a big fan of that. I don't like them when they take over the infotainment screen. And the Wagoneer S has a setting where it takes over the infotainment screen when you do that. Ask me how I know. And I'm like, turn this off. It was like one of the first things I asked. I'm like, tell me this turns off. Please tell me this turns off.
Yeah. So, I don't understand why. It's like, I think it makes sense in the dash cluster because that's where you're looking.
Right.
But it makes about as much, but it's also the opposite of that is that McLaren has the rear wheel drive or the backup camera in the dash cluster, which is weird because when you back up, and you turn the wheel, suddenly you can't see the behind you.
That's awesome.
So there's uses.
They're only
for,
allowed to back up straight.
Yeah, there's
geez.
uses for like what camera should be in the dash cluster and which one should be in the infotainment. It makes sense to have a backup camera in the infotainment because you're already looking in that direction anyway. But it doesn't make sense to have the side mirror stuff happening in the infotainment because then you're turning away because you're still looking forward. You're still going in
that direction.
Yeah.
I feel that's, so that goes right along with having an easy way to show information about range for an EV is automakers haven't quite figured out how to use displays on the instrument cluster so that you're not occasionally unable to see really important information when you want to see it. Steering wheels that aren't right, positioning that isn't right, like, turn the wheel. Now you can't see that. It's like
things. Yeah.
It's weird that we have this really advanced stuff. And then it's like basic thing, fail,
It's interesting because, like Hyundai has they have the issue where the on-screen climate controls are behind the steering wheel. You just can't see it. But meanwhile, if you get in the Mercedes and they have their super hyper screen with their their zero layer setup, they recognize that the steering wheel cuts off some of that screen, so nothing goes in that area. If you look at the widgets, they're all moved over to the right a little bit, just because they know you can't see it.
Somebody was paying attention.
It's always these little weird little things that I think most people don't think about when they get in the car that we have to think about all the time. Like the Jeep, like the Wagoneer, the Cherokee, one of them, the buttons on top of the infotainment screen, you can't see what they are. You just know they're there. Like I remember
there's stuff here.
pointing that out to people who are in the car with me. I'm like, yeah, see this. Like you wouldn't think about this because that's not your job. But me, like my first thing is like, these don't make sense because I don't, I'll learn them, but I shouldn't have to.
That's the thing. Like you'll get used to a lot of this kind of stuff in your car because you drive your own car all the time. You shouldn't have to get used to it. It should be more intuitive. Like getting into a new car, it's different. It takes you a little time, but things should be pretty straightforward. And if we have to look around for them too much, we're like, that's not intuitive. We should, if we're looking and can't find something, we probably hit the 5 most common spots in a half a second. And if we still can't find it, you put it in a bad spot.
If I've opened up the glove compartment, you've messed up. Because now I'm like, okay, getting the owner's manual out and flipping through it.
Flipping through an owner. Yes. Mm-hmm. Then you're in trouble when you see one of us with an owner's manual.
Like, how do I just want to put the seat back,
It's a struggle. So that was the Ioniq 5, which I had a couple weeks ago.
Did you take it to a supercharger and try it out?
I did not get a chance to take a supercharger. Oh, but that's an issue. So it had the
adapter.
Right, the adapter. So I was plugging it in at my house and using the adapter because I just have the what's the other one called? CCS. I don't have the
1772.
1772. So, but I fought with the little adapter. I can't believe it. So the adapter was sitting in the center console in the car, which initially I go to plug it in. I'm like, wait, I need that. Go back inside, get it, put the adapter onto the end and plug it in. It didn't want to register. Like I had a really hard time.
You have to plug the adapter in first and then plug in your AC thing. That's what I learned when I had it. Yeah.
Okay. Cause I was doing this and at first it wouldn't register.
It'll just flop out with this.
Well, it stayed. It stayed clicked in and it was clicked in. And then it was like, wait, this is all really solidly in here. Then we had a minute of like, oh God, please tell me I didn't jam that in there because now I can't get it out. Did I just break the Hyundai? Oh crud. And then but it took I had to be a little aggressive. Like I wanted to be like click, click. And it was like slam. Okay, now it's charging. So
yeah, there's like a certain.
I did not have the knack for it. I'm thinking, oh gosh, this would be a challenge. But it was sort of kind of cool to be like, look at that. It's the Tesla adapter.
Yeah, because I plugged it into the adapter first and then plugged it in my car and like nothing happened. I'm like, what's going on? So then I unplugged it and then I plugged in the adapter into the car and then I plugged my AC, my home charger into it and then it's all and then it does that woman who's trapped under the hood charging started. That woman.
And it's so loud. I plugged it in and it was like we had neighbors outside and it does a little charging start. She's like, what is that? I'm like, it's the car. It's good.
And the speaker for that isn't inside the cabin. It's under like the hood. It's
And
like
it like
so it
rockets
sounds
him
like
up.
there's a poor woman who's trapped in your car, who's always standing there with like a like a meter, and it's like, wait for it, charging started.
And there's like a delay. That's the weirdest part
Yeah, there's
about
like a
it. So
few moments
like you
while
hear it click, 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 everything's good. You can see that it's charging. And I know the little woman's voice. And I'm like, wait, is it? And then I'll be standing there and it's weirdly loud too. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's charging.
like,
She's woken me. Yeah.
it's really loud at 2 a.m. when you get home and you're like, I
It's
gotta plug in my
very
car.
loud. Yes. Late at night, early in the morning. She's extremely vocal. Yes.
I think you could turn it off. I don't know. I like.
You probably could. I didn't dig that far in to turn it off. I just suffered with that. With the
I
poor
think I saw
woman.
something where I could turn it off, and I'm like, she reminds me
It's
that charging
fine.
started.
So that's the
She's got a
Hyundai
job.
Ioniq 5.
There's a woman trapped in it.
Job.
It's
But
a
it's
poor
okay.
woman trapped in your Hyundai Ioniq 5. Everyone.
So I went from the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Why can't I say Hyundai today? Hyundai Ioniq 5. The other thing, Hyundai, that I drove at a like I guess it's a first drive. Yeah, it would still be a first drive. Was the Ram heavy duty lineup out in like outside of Vegas somewhere in the desert. Like they drove us out into the middle of nowhere. I'm like, oh, they've had it with me. They're just killing
this is
me.
where there's so many dead gangsters out here.
I said that to someone. She's like, that's silly. I'm like, no, it is. It's just
That's
bodies.
silly.
They found a whole bunch of them when the lake dried up.
Exactly. So like every time you're off-roading near Vegas, you could be driving over dead gangsters. But I digress.
Who
So
said that
I
was
had
silly? That
Yes.
sounds like
It was-
gangster
who
talk.
said it? I don't know who said it. Yeah, someone's like, there's no bodies here, lady. So I had the heavy duty lineup. The reason they did it where they did it is they had us drive I just forgot the name.
Davis Dam.
Davis Dam. They had us do the Davis Dam grade, which is this very specific thing. And I didn't actually know this. It escaped me until I was here. I knew that they tested stuff there. I didn't know they had to get certain certifications for it. Like there's literally conditions like you have to test in a certain temperature and you have to be doing this. It's very specific. And the engineers will spend time out there in the summer when it's hot as Hades to make sure that these trucks can do this and perform. They have all sorts of equipment hooked up. Yep, it did what it was supposed to do and everything stayed within the, acceptable parameters. So they let us drive these with loads on the back up this thing so we could see what it was like. And it was kind of cool because you're going and going and going and going. And then all of a sudden it's like, when you turn back around, it doesn't feel like a super steep grade because it's very long. You're driving for a very long time.
I think it's about 11 miles.
11 miles. So it doesn't, you're just like, okay, so I'm going up a little. But then when you turn around and you come back down and you look at where you were, you're like, oh, is that the city down there? Crud, I'm up here, So that was kind of neat to be able to do that. I don't tow big, heavy stuff all the time. So it was an interesting experience for me to try these. So super capable. And I always kind of feel like when I do a heavy duty truck drive, part of what shows just how good it is if I don't think it's hard, because I don't drive this kind of stuff all the time.
Mhm.
And I don't tow a load. I'm not used to doing that. So when I'm not used to doing something, when anybody's not used to doing something and you feel you're uncomfortable, you might be nervous, there's a real sense of confidence. You don't feel like it's a big load on the back. You have to take, things a little wide because you got these giant trailers hooked up. But it's a very confidence inspiring drive. And you can get like base trims of this that are very, very base and stripped down for work. Then you can get them in their like crazy fancy limited versions that have all the bells and whistles, and the one that looks, they look like a cowboy should be using it on like Yellowstone or something. So it's an interesting truck in that there's a very big range of vehicles that you can pick from. The other thing they let us do was they had some of the Rebels, the Ram Rebel, and they let us go off-road, which is always my favorite thing. And it was really fun. And the fun thing about that is these aren't small. These These are big trucks. So they got all the power, but they're also big. So when you're going through narrow things, you have that like, oh gosh, please don't hit that rock. Please, please. But they're so well controlled and they're so good off-road. It's very easy. It is surprisingly easy to drive off-road in the Rebel. And I had a great time. I went with Alana Scher and Nina Barlow, who does a lot of the training stuff when you do programs with Jeep, and we were all had done the Rebels. So us three Rebels just went out there in the desert, the three of us, and had a good time. And it was very, very fun. So, as a heavy duty truck, you've got it. There's so many configurations of this. I feel like doing pricing on this is almost stupid because there's so many ways you can configure these. But you start at around $45,000 and you can climb up like a Power Wagon. It's like 72 grand. So there's a huge range of vehicle here. But I think the takeaway from this is that it is a neat truck in that it inspires confidence if you aren't used to doing heavy duty truck things. And you can still have an interior that feels like you're driving a luxury car. Like with all the cowboy, the one that looks like it's literally saddles. They've just like taken saddles apart and put like saddlebags on the back of the seats. They're so over the top, or you can get this really super basic one. So I enjoyed driving these. I was impressed by them, and doing that Davis Dam, doing that drive and seeing how easy that was to do. An impressive truck. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, and I was impressed.
Yeah, I mean, these heavy duty trucks, these are meant for work.
Yes.
This is not something you don't want to buy one of these to just, go to the grocery store or drop your kids off at school.
Right.
But if you need to actually haul stuff, these things are pretty amazing. What I can't remember. Do you know what is the maximum towing that the Ram HD can do?
Oh shoot, I had it written down and I'm looking back.
I think it's somewhere around 36,000 pounds.
I have 30. I think you're pretty close to, if not that. I believe it was 36. I thought I had a little chart on this little graph and I don't. But I think it's up to 30. Oh, let's see. Nope, I don't have it there. I have a lot of data in this chart. Apologies, guys. But yeah, it's not, I mean, we were towing like giant camper. We have this one camper thing that had like a porch on the back. They put like, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous in the best way possible. But it is, again, this is something that you're not going to buy.
It's called,
you're not going to buy this if you're just like, I'm just hanging out. I just want a truck. This is not the I just want a truck. This is, I need to do some work. I need to haul something. I have serious work that I need to do.
This is when you need to move a lot of mulch.
When you need
all the mulch
and lots.
How much mulch do you need?
All the mulch.
Ma'am,
all the mulch.
Ma'am,
yeah.
Ma'am, how much mulch do you need? I would like all the mulch.
How much mulch do you have, Home Depot? I'll take it all.
I will take all of your mulch, please.
So and it's a work truck, and that's the thing. These are work trucks, and I think it's neat that these work trucks can still be comfortable inside. Like you don't feel like you're like driving in this bare bones thing that would be torture. Because if you're doing heavy work and you're out there, you want to have someplace comfortable. Like if you're just using it, you're towing your trailer, like your motorhome. Okay, so you have fun at the end of the day. You got a motorhome, you're on vacation. But if you're towing construction equipment, or you're towing bales of hay, or you're towing something,
horses.
If you're doing these things, it's nice to have a truck that is both capable of doing it and also comfortable doing it. So you're not feeling comfortable or feeling super nervous that it's like, we're going to have a problem here.
And you can get these things up over $100,000.
Oh, easily, because you've got, if you just keep adding stuff to it, there's so much there's options you can add to these. If you want to spend six figures on a Ram heavy duty truck, knock yourself out. But you don't have to. That's the thing. You don't have to. You can get them. If you don't want all of that, you just need the truck to do the work, and you want more of a work truck, then go ahead and do that. You don't have to go crazy, but you can go crazy if you want. If you're the rancher who wants to be rancher guy during the day and then take your lady out for some, I don't know what ranchers do, line dancing someplace fancy at night. I don't know.
I want to make fun of you, but like literally everyone, I was in FFA in high school and literally everyone line danced but me. I was like the one FFA kid who didn't want to listen to country
What's
music.
FFA? What's an FFA? I don't know what that means.
The Future Farmers of America.
Oh, really?
There's a lot. Yeah.
You were a future farmer of America?
I worked on the farm. I was vice president of the chapter. I know how to break horses. I know how to raise sheep. I
You know,
raised sheep. I had a bunch of sheep. I would sell them to when the lambs were born. We would sell the lambs to kids to take to
you know
fair.
how to break horses. So like you're the guy. Wait. Is that the guy
Oh
who
yeah,
gets on the horse
gets
and
on the
rides
horse
until he
and rides
stops
it until you
fucking?
can ride it. Yep.
Could you still do that, or would that kill you today?
Oh gosh, it would probably kill me today. And I
Okay.
also haven't ridden a horse since I was 17, 18.
Oh my gosh,
So it's been a quiet. It's been
that's impressive.
that's a whole other lifetime ago.
I've turned you into a character from Yellowstone now.
Oh gosh, no. Oh
Yep,
please,
you're
I hate
those
that
guys.
show so much.
You're those guys.
I hate the writing on that show so much. It makes me so angry. The writing is just
I love that show.
it's
I love
it's just a soap opera. So it drives me absolutely bonkers.
I have never watched Yellowstone.
I say that it's a mafia movie, but cowboys, gangster movie with cowboys instead of with like
I don't know
gangsters in New York.
It's more soap opera with guns.
Soap opera with guns, that works too. Soap opera with guns and horses.
Guns and horses.
There's
Soap opera
horses.
with guns and
There's
horses
horses.
and hats.
And it's really pretty in Montana. Montana, I think
Montana
is,
is really
it, wasn't it? I think it was Montana.
Yeah. So that's what we've learned today.
So that was my experience driving the Ram heavy duty trucks out in the middle of the desert, which was just amazing. It was a really cool experience to get to try off-road heavy duty and towing. And
Did you drive the new updated Cummins diesel?
we did. It was fabulous.
Yeah.
It's just one of those trucks like if you want to do work, I don't know how to say it any more than that. If you want to do work, it is a fantastic work truck. It delivers exactly what you need. It delivers the power you need, the responsiveness you need, the confidence. I feel like the confidence is a big part. You have to have confidence driving something that big, even without something towing on the back. You need confidence, and it really does inspire confidence.
There is nothing more terrifying than hauling something with a vehicle that isn't quite appropriate to be hauling the thing. And I've done that a few times with cars, like hauling other cars.
Right.
And you're just like, oh, okay, all right, let's slow down.
I remember.
I need a brake. I better apply these brakes a good 3-4 miles ahead of time.
I can remember years ago being with a friend, and they were doing construction in her house, and she had not a heavy duty truck, and it was an old beater, and she had a trailer hooked up to the back because we were taking stuff to the dump. Okay, really exciting. But the trailer was clearly the truck was old, maybe the trailer was too heavy, but the sense of like the trailer is driving us, not us driving the trailer.
Like weaving. Yeah. Once it starts, it's like it
was
be careful.
So disconcerting. And even when we were going, there's some hills on the way to the dump. Going uphill, it was its last gasp. But going downhill, you'd feel the trailer behind you so much. It was so bad like you felt like the trailer was coming at you. Like, so you had that sort of head bobbing kind of like it kept trying to modulate.
Yeah.
I remember that experience being on like, we're going to die taking shingles to the dump today. This is it for me.
This is where we die.
This is where we die. So to have something that doesn't do that, towing far more than we were towing to the dump, and to see the difference, it's a striking difference having the right vehicle for the job. It's striking.
Yeah. No, it's having towed a lot of stuff in my time. The difference between towing with a good truck and towing with a good enough is
marginal.
It can be very
Yeah, Nikki's truck was definitely just good enough.
Good enough, maybe.
All right,
everybody, hold on.
Yeah,
Robbie, what did you drive?
I drove a so this doesn't last anyway. It doesn't matter. I drove the Ford E-Transit mid-height roof electric work van. So this is the 350. Let me double check hold on. Let me pull up my Monroney. Yes, the 350 medium roof cargo rear wheel drive plug-in electric van. It was fantastic. I like driving around in vans. I just really like work vans. There was no way I could ever fill this thing though. Like we went to Costco.
Did you have a gig where you had to put a bunch of equipment in it?
So we rented something like this to go to a gig in Utah, and we still had a ton, like everything was just on the ground, like almost a single layer, except for like the guitars were stacked a little bit. But other than that, there's still like so much room. So
You need a bigger set. You need bigger
we need a
speakers.
bigger
more
bed.
lights or
Yeah, we
something.
needed a bigger set. We needed some like half stack, some full stack, like a Marshall stacks, just like
There you
shoving it in
go.
there. Are you using those? No, we just wanted to put them in the van. So I went to was IKEA, and we bought 2 things, and they
Ooh.
might as well have been nothing because they didn't take up hardly any room. We had a bunch of stuff that we just sort of we had a bunch of stuff we needed to take to the dump. So I filled it full of stuff for the dump. I mean, like they were like, what about, we're just like looking around, thinking of things to throw away. And that still didn't really
Still
fill
not
it up.
full.
And then I took I donated 2 bicycles to a place in Palo Alto that
Oh,
takes
cool.
bicycles, and they refurbish them, and then they sell them, and like a bunch of kids work there, and they train the kids how to work on bikes. And
That's cool.
I had donated an e-bike there a while back, so that was nice. But really, I never at no point did I ever fill up this van.
Wow.
It was just like, well, I guess we're okay. This is what I'm doing.
Did you do a range test with it?
Oh wait, hold on. Whoops. I got the. So it's supposed to get about 140. Hold on, let me look at my link. How much? 89. The one I had. Okay, so it was supposed to get a range of 148 miles. In my driving, I got their numbers wrong. Hold on, I got better than that. Okay, let's see. 1.8 times 89 equals. So I did 160 because there's no way in hell I was ever filling up that van. So I got 12 miles of better range. But their range number, according to Ford, is that EPA number is based on the vehicle hauling half of its 10,000 pounds of maximum load. So if I had 5,000 pounds, I should have gotten 148 miles of range. So 12 miles less range than what I would have gotten, which is pretty good. It's and it's good that Ford, those EPA numbers are based on having a load in the vehicle, because a lot of companies will end up outfitting these vehicles, whether they're electricians, or maybe they're putting if they're delivery, they're going to outfit it with things to stack boxes, or I think very rarely they're just empty vans. Once someone buys them, they're going to do something to these vans when they get them, in order to get them ready for whatever business they're going to be doing, because most of these vans are for business. You could buy one for camping, 150 miles. It charges at 178 kilowatts at a DC fast charger, so it's not super quick.
They've improved it then, because
Yeah.
it used to be slower. It used to be like 130, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was much slower. What's really impressive is that it'll do 19.2 kilowatts on an AC charger, which is really, really quick for AC charging. So if you have so most time it's cheaper to put in an AC infrastructure at your business than trying to get a bunch of DC, fast chargers. So if you get the AC chargers and you get a bunch of those, you're going to be able to charge this thing relatively quickly, AC wise, versus say I think my car does like a 9 or 11 kilowatts. So, this is great for those folks at night. When I looked I did the numbers, AC charging 0 to 100% in about 6 hours. No one's ever going to drive this thing down to 0. So 6 hours, that 178, 20 to 80% in about 28 minutes. Hey, that's lunch. You got to take a lunch in the middle of the day anyway.
Lunch.
So.
Yeah.
I took it to an EV Go at the Lowe's. I took it to the EV Go at the pizza place there's a charging location that has Tesla and EV Go and Blink, I think, is the third one. That's sort of like it charges. It's AC charging. It shows you a bunch of ads, but it's right next to a place that'll give you pizza. So I got a slice of pizza and I charged it. So that's that. So for my day,
I thought you made your stops based on tacos. No pizza.
I can't always eat tacos, and then tacos are like
right. Change it up once in a while.
Yeah, I got to change it up.
Okay, I always feel like it seems like you're like, oh, there's a taco place, pizza. He's moved on. He's changed it up.
Change it up. So I drove the vehicle around. It was the article I'm doing for SAE, the video, it's really kind of talking about how these are used as work vans, because these when you look at the the cost of running these vehicles, it actually ends up being cheaper, and it's easier to sort of map out, because if you look at the price of gas, that can fluctuate sometimes from day to day, from week to week. Typically, your energy costs, your electric costs, those are pretty fixed. I mean, they might, especially if you're on some sort of tiered plan. Like I have a tiered plan where I pay less at night than I do during the day, so I charge my vehicle at night. So if that amount stays the same for like years, maybe, it goes up 1 or 2 cents per kilowatt hour over the course of a couple of years, but it's pretty stable. It's a lot easier to determine like what it costs to run these vehicles over the long term, again, versus gasoline. So that's kind of cool. And then of course there, you have to get oil change, you have to worry about spark plugs, you don't have to worry about the radiator getting stabbed by something. And it also has that Pro Power outlet that you see on the F-150s and the F-150 Lightnings, and it'll deliver up to 2.4 kilowatts of electricity. So I don't know, I hooked up one of my table saw to it. I'm like, what's the loudest, biggest thing I can for the video? And so I just turn it on and then turn it off, because it's just so, but you can use it, obviously to run other things. Hey, you could use it to charge your other EV. It's going to be slow. It's going to be a while, but you could charge another EV if that's your jam. It came with an adapter. It's CCS, but it came with the NACSA CCS adapter. So, if I think I did charge it at a Tesla station once just to test it. Sure, it works. And no one should be excited about that, because at this point it's going to be like, oh, I drove an EV 1,000 miles. Yeah, no one cares anymore. Stop those articles. I do that like once a month. No one cares. I see people doing it all the time on Interstate 5. No one cares.
They still all do that. Those stories. That is a big thing. I drove this far.
I drove 400 miles in an EV. I'm like, what are you talking about?
This is what it was like. I'm like, I don't know. I could ask my neighbor too. What?
Anyway, so we unless there's something like you're doing something stupid, weird, crazy, then I want to hear about it. Like I drove 400 miles, but it was a snowstorm and I was attacked by a grizzly. That's the story I want to see.
So we need to stage
How
that.
does the Mustang Mach-E stand up?
Okay, let me write this down. Snowstorm, grizzly. Okay, in Mach-E. Okay, noted
Mach-E,
for you. Okay,
Mach-E rally.
Mach-E rally. Wait,
yeah, you're like,
rally.
oh,
Okay.
Can you outrun a grizzly in a Mach-E rally?
I'll see if they can arrange that for all of us. That'll be our road trip.
Grizzlies are pretty fast.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
It's shocking how an animal that large can move that fast.
And then it's so much mass. Like once it hits the car, I think it was
a lot of momentum.
It would just tip the rally on its side.
Oh, you just drive on your side like in the 80s? No one does that
like
anymore.
Herbie the Love Bug.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that Robbie and I are both driving sideways in our seats. Sam's just staring at us.
This is a visual medium of podcast, the audio podcast. For now, it does have the Ford's telematic system, so it'll tell you like the best time to charge and who should be which vehicles to be on which route and who should be driving based on like some drivers probably have a lead foot. You're like, maybe we'll put him in the gas vehicle, or maybe we'll put her in the EV, or and then if you're charging, sometimes a driver might take the car and charge it overnight at their house. So they're going to get properly reimbursed because it'll be able to say, hey, they had added this many kilowatts and the cost of electricity at that time is this much. And so that's really nice if that's a thing that's happening. I really couldn't test any of that because I don't have a fleet, unfortunately.
Whoops. You should have asked Ford Pro to send you over like 5 vehicles.
Yeah, just send me 5 vehicles, and I'll load it up with some friends, and I'll send them all out on different things. What's interesting when I talked to Ford about this is that they try to really work with their customers on what version of the Transit they should get, whether it's you get a gas Transit or an e-Transit. And they're like, for some, there's still jobs that require the regular gas Transit. The e-Transit makes sense for a lot of you're just driving around town. Local maintenance, local work, local deliveries, local stuff. But if it's, every day you're going from say like Sacramento to San Francisco and back, or you're going, you're traveling 200-300 miles in a day in your van. Well, that doesn't, it's at that point, it makes a lot more sense to just get the gas version.
But the majority of these things don't do that.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
vast
majority of them.
majority
It's like 86 miles, I believe. They figured. Oh, here it is. Ford says its data shows that most of these vehicles travel about 80 miles per day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because most of them are running around town in a local area. Like you said, it's, utility workers, plumbers, electricians, with all their parts and tools and everything in the back. And, they're mostly operating within one city.
Yeah.
They're not doing road trips with these things most of the time.
No, very few people are road tripping in these. And having driven, a gas version, having driven this version, it's just much nice. I just think it's just a nicer experience for the drivers. You don't turn it on and off. You're like, you don't have the vibration of an engine all day. You don't have the noise of the engine all day. And so I think the cognitive load and the sort of cognitive stress that people don't really think about that they have, especially for drivers who are getting in and out of, especially diesel, because diesel is just loud, clangy. It's just a tractor in my brain. It'll always diesel cars are all just tractors, because that's the first diesel I ever drove was a tractor, FFA.
So back to FFA already.
To FFA. They're like, here's the John Deere.
So many skills.
Don't do this with it. I'm like, okay, boom, and so so it's that having a nice quiet vehicle, that it has a lot, has that low end torque that a diesel would have, but without that diesel noise is nice, and not having to hear it. And also in your neighborhood, you can be, it's nice not to have a quieter vehicles driving around, and of course emissions and all the fun stuff that comes with that. So yeah, no, I really like the E-Transit. I drove it at the initial launch when it had slower charging, and you're like, okay, I can understand this. And but now they've made it better, which is always better, to be honest. And they're doing pretty well with the sales, and I think there's
sales
were up quite a bit in first quarter for the E-Transit.
12,000 this year. Yeah, three out of every four E-Transit sales are from repeat customers. So folks are, they're buying them, they're adding them to their fleets, and they're saying, hey, this makes sense for us. And when you're talking about fleet people, every mile, every minute is money. And so when you look at these vehicles and you're like, well, if this one could stay on the road for a couple 100,000 miles without a lot of that maintenance, it has the same, it's essentially the same vehicle dimensions wise as the gas one, so you can just swap things in and out of it. So if you're like, if one of them goes down, you can grab everything that's in that van and just throw it into the EV, and you just keep on doing your job. So if you need if it's upfit, you can like pull all that stuff out and put it in your EV. And then Ford also does some upfitting now that you can have them.
And this is the thing that fleets do is, you often, fleets will tend to stick with the same brand and the same models, because, when they do turn over their vehicles and get new ones into their fleet, they just take all of that, all those racks and shelves and everything else that they've put in these vehicles, whether it's in a van or the stuff they put in the pickup trucks, they just take it all out of one and drop it right into the next one. Just bolt it right in. Which is one of the reasons why, when you look at one generation of an F-150 to the next, they usually all have the same size beds, the same dimensions. They don't change that very often, because they know that the commercial customers that use these things depend on all of that other equipment that they have just dropping right in.
They want their 10-year-old upfit, whether it's van or truck, to be able to just be, when that truck's going to be sold or it retired or crushed or whatever, they can just take all the bits out and put it into the new one.
Yep. All right. Well, I had something a little bit different this week. I had a 2025 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray 3LT. So, there's several variants of the Corvette now. You get the base models are the Stingrays. That's just a naturally aspirated 6.2 liter V8. And then there's the E-Ray, which is the hybrid, which I drove last year. And there's the Z06, which is also let's see, Z06. I think that's a 5.5 liter twin cam now, I think. And then there's the ZR1 that's coming this summer, which is a twin turbo V8. The Stingray is still it's still an incredibly good performance car, and even more so when you consider the price compared to other stuff that's out there that has comparable levels of performance. The base 1LT Stingray starts at $70,000.
Wow.
And it gives you performance pretty much comparable to McLarens and Ferraris and Lamborghinis that cost $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. And it's not perfect. I've grown to like the styling of the C8 Corvette, the current generation, the mid-engine Corvette. I'm still not crazy about the interior, especially the center console with the wall that separates the driver from the passenger and the long row of identical buttons for climate control and a bunch of other things that are.
I also hate that. I think it looks weird. I can't get used to that.
It's like you're in first class on a plane.
Yeah.
And they have that wall between you.
The Delta One thing where you have a million buttons to adjust your bed.
Yeah. So, that's not great. And I'm hoping that, when they eventually do a mid-cycle update on the C8, that will get ripped out and replaced with something else. They did do some updates last year to the Corvette for, I think, model year 2024. They upgraded, they replaced the infotainment software. So it still has the same screen that's been on the C8 since it launched in 2020, but they put in the Android Automotive system that's in most of the other newer GM vehicles. And I noticed that in this one, it's not as responsive. I think they're still using the same chip that they had before, whatever it was.
No.
And it feels a little sluggish sometimes to respond.
It
Compared
feels like
to
there's so much work to like port it to that chip versus just put the new chip in.
Yeah, I know. So I'm not sure what it's running on, but it definitely does not feel as responsive as it does in other newer GM vehicles. Apart from that, though, there's nothing really sluggish about this car. I guess 3.4 seconds from 0 to 60, is a little on the sluggish side.
Well, you don't buy these cars for their infotainment systems, to be honest. No one's like, oh, I don't know about this. It's like when you get in the McLaren, you're like, well, all right. I mean, it has an infotainment system. That's all you care about. When you get in a Lamborghini, no one's like, I would have got that Lamborghini, but that infotainment, just, I don't know. It's not my cup of tea.
But they, this one, again, like I did with the E-Ray last year, I did it in the same spot, going slightly uphill, without using launch control, and 0 to 60 in 3.4, which is, a little bit slower than I think the 2.6 or 2.7 seconds I got with the E-Ray. But it's, man, that is still more than fast enough for anything you want to do on public roads. That is
speedy, quick enough for anything you're going to, for 99.9% of us. That is more than fast enough.
Most people they wouldn't know the difference between those two times, to be honest.
Yeah, you're not
the average person and the person who's buying a Corvette isn't like, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And where are you going? Why are you in such a hurry?
Exactly.
Slow it down, buddy.
Just take the top off, put it in the trunk and, enjoy life.
Have a nice time in your Corvette Stingray.
Yeah. So, no, I like driving the C8, and especially when it has the MagneRide dampers on there, those things are like magic when it comes to creating an incredible balance between performance and something that you can actually live with on a day-to-day basis. That's still comfortable. So these dampers have, this fluid in them that it has iron particles or magnetic particles in there that when you apply current to it, it changes the viscosity. So it goes from being relatively compliant so it's comfortable to drive around on Michigan roads. And then as soon as you turn into a corner, it stiffens right up
As soon as you leave
it's
Michigan, it stiffens right up.
yeah. So it's a wonderful car to drive, and the sound of that V8 engine when you stand on it, it's so good. There's nothing like a big V8 engine behind you.
A sound that's slowly disappearing.
Yeah. But while it's here, we can still enjoy it.
We can.
The other thing is, the Corvette is surprisingly fuel efficient. I've been averaging almost 24 miles per gallon with this thing.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that actually is pretty good. That's surprising.
It's EPA rated at 19 city, 25 highway, 16 city, 25 highway, 19 combined. And I'm getting almost just shy of 24 combined.
That's good.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I will tell you, like, I've seen a bunch of these Corvettes around. None of them are driving really all that fast.
No.
Everyone is driving it. None of them, they're either dyeing their hair or they're not. Either they're
or they're supplementing their hair.
Yeah, they're supplement. They yeah. But they seem so happy. I saw a gentleman get out of the Corvette, the brand new, the new Stingray a few months ago. He had a black leather jacket, and he had his new jeans, and he got out of his Stingray, and I wanted it. Good for you, sir. Good for you. You've just retired. You're having a nice time, and he's got the top down. Just the time of his life.
That's exactly what a car like the Corvette is for, though. Like, is it practical? No. Are there better cars? Sure. Does it make you happy? Then buy it. Puts a smile on your face. You can afford to buy it. You want to enjoy yourself. Knock yourself out. Enjoy that car. Enjoy the heck out of it.
Golden years. You should just be playing David Bowie's Golden Years the entire time you're driving this car.
And just have fun. Have fun with it.
So yeah, the one, like I said, the one I had was the 3LT. Although one of the things when I first drove a C8, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, the first model year, I had the base 1LT trim, and at that time, the 1LT did not have the digital rearview mirror as standard equipment. It was you had to step up to a 2LT or a 3LT to get that. For the second model year, they made that standard equipment because there were so many complaints that, with the optical mirror, you cannot actually really see anything behind you. And so that's now standard across the board. But this one, had the 3L. This was a 3LT, so it had all the options on there. Some stuff that was kind of surprising that on the $70,000 base model, that things like blind spot monitoring. You would think that would be standard across the board, especially on a car like this that has rather large blind spots. But that is standard on the 3LT. And then what else? Cross traffic alert, things like that. The digital mirror, no adaptive cruise control. But again, on a car like this, who cares?
You're not going on a huge long road trip on this. You're going out and having fun. Just
One nice feature that this car has, especially in my neighborhood where we have a whole bunch of speed bumps now, it does have the front adjustable height front lift.
Oh, thank God!
So that you're not scraping the front splitter every time you go over a speed bump.
I had a Ferrari that didn't have that, and it was like the whole week was this terror.
Yeah, terror. You're gonna scrape up the front end.
I had the same terror in an Aston Martin. It was like, oh dear God, I can't go in there today. No, I can't get through that.
Just terrifying having those cars.
It's a $2,600 option, but it's worth it on a car like this.
Oh yeah.
And this had the performance exhaust. What else? The MagnaRide dampers. That's $1,900 again, all worth it. All in this Corvette, which was it's painted torch red.
Nice,
which is a very good color with a jet black interior.
Lovely.
$91,495.
So the deal it's still cheaper than a couple of HD Rams.
Yeah, I mean it's not cheap.
You can't haul. Well, you can haul mulch.
But can you haul mulch in it?
You know what will fit in the trunk of a C8 Corvette?
What?
My stand-up paddleboard. My
Oh.
inflatable
Oh, no
stand-up
kidding.
paddleboard.
Really? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
it will fit in the trunk.
If that fits,
I
then I
have done
think you
that.
can probably stick at least one bag of mulch.
I feel like then I was
Yeah.
just going to say that
And-
should be at least one bag.
Yeah, no, you could easily fit a couple of bags of mulch in there.
There you go.
Why did you not think to do this test, Sam? These are the things people want to know about
I
a
didn't need any
Corvette.
mulch this week.
Oh,
Yeah,
so disappointed.
We're doing a lot of work on the house right now, so we're not buying mulch right now.
Yeah.
I would just go buy mulch and save it for later.
That's true. Like mulch is never a thing you don't
That's
need.
true. Yeah,
Like, at some
you're
point-
going
What
to
a
use it
scam.
eventually.
Right?
What a
Like,
scam mulch is, because you put it down and then in 6 months it's all disappeared. Like mulch, like the people who make the mulch just come to your house at night and take it all back.
the mulch industry has done a darn good
one
job.
piece of wood at a time. They're just like, "Yee, I steal your mulch." You're like, oh,
There, the Corvette also has a frunk as well. So there's storage space in the front as well that you can put, a duffel bag, a couple of duffel bags maybe, and or one or two bags of groceries can go in there. So it's a surprisingly practical car given what it is, which is a mid-engine sports car with phenomenal levels of performance. And like I said, to get anything with this kind of performance from a European manufacturer is going to cost you at least 2.5 to 3 times as much.
Yeah.
all your money, all your 401k.
It's a deal for what it is. It's not a cheap car, but it is a deal for what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it would have at least been, whatever was in your 401k a couple of days ago.
Oh yeah. Now there's nothing you can. You can probably get a Nissan Versa. Good luck.
That's about it. So that is the 2025 Corvette Stingray Coupe 3LT. Excellent car. Still really a big fan.
I still haven't driven this. I drove the previous version. I drove the carbon one, the special. They gave me the special edition carbon for when I was in Gadget, and my videographer was like, we were on Alameda at the military, at the former naval base, and we're just giant lot. And so we're just doing some B-roll and some shots, and the videographer's like, "Dude, do a burnout." I'm like, "God, man, I mean, it's like, hey, yeah, do a burnout, and then flip it around." And I was like, "All right." So, and there's some people there like, "Yay!" He's like, "Okay, one more time. Let's get one in slow motion." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Do it, flip it around, and then I just see off in the distance.
Flashing lights.
It was security. He's like, "Man," and the guy came up to us, he's like, "You can't do that. Come on, man. My boss says you got to go." I'm like, "All right." And so we left. It turns out we couldn't just, he didn't just want us to leave that area. We had to leave the entire naval base, like decommissioned naval base area. Cause we tried going to another part just to get some more B-roll, because there's all these old naval buildings you can sit in front of and get these really cool shots. And he's like, "No, man, you can't be here at all."
Like, you are done. Get out.
We're like, "Oh, I'm sorry." He's like, "Man, you're going to get me." I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I don't want to get you in trouble. I know you're, I was trying
You're breaking all the rules, Robbie.
I was
Come
breaking
on.
all the rules. It wasn't like, I'm not there's nothing rebellious about doing a burnout. Ever. I don't care how cool you think you are. Like me, I did a burnout. No.
It's now actually, 16 years ago now, when the Mustang was celebrating its 45th birthday, and Hyundai had just launched the Genesis Coupe. Somebody from Hyundai came over and said, "Hey, we want to shoot a video as a salute to the 45th birthday of the Mustang." And so we took out a bright yellow Genesis Coupe and spent about half an hour doing burnouts in this surprisingly small little area. And I'm saying this now because the statute of limitations is long since passed. But we had a birthday cake and everything. It's like, and I just dropped a link in the show notes to this video. I'll put it in the or I dropped it in the chat. I'll put it in the show notes. It's only about 45 seconds or 30 seconds long. As we were shooting this, I was doing the driving and one of my colleagues was shooting the video. And about 90 seconds into this, the power steering pump failed.
Oh no.
So I was doing all of this with no power steering, cranking that steering wheel around doing this all
Jeez.
just manually. And then as we were finishing up and cleaned up, we were just leaving the area, and a local police officer pulled into the area where we were shooting.
Oh,
And
geez.
we very casually just kept on driving, and as quickly as we could, got on the interstate and moseyed on back to the Hyundai
Just
Tech
play
Center.
it cool. You flew casual. Just play it cool.
Yeah.
Play it cool. Play it cool.
All right. Let's talk about what you and I did last week.
Okay.
We went to Puerto Rico last week.
We did. We went to Puerto Rico to drive the new, I was going to say Hyundai. Jeez Louise, what is it? I can't say
Starts
the name.
with an
now.
H, ends with an A. It's got a D and an N in there.
Right,
Basically the
it's
same
close.
thing.
Same company. The Honda Passport, 2026 Honda Passport. It's only April 2026 Honda Passport. So we got a chance to drive that in Puerto Rico. I'd never been to Puerto Rico before. Here's my review. It's hot. Okay. And it was like
Hot
I was
as in
melting.
hot or just
Hot as in my face was melting the entire time I was
that
there.
hot.
It was hot. It was too hot, Sam. I'm not a hot weather person. I was like, it's so pretty.
I guess that's why you live in New Hampshire.
Exactly. It's raining and cold right now. It's glorious. So we got a chance to drive the Honda Passport, and we had both a very brief on-road drive and a more extensive off-road drive. What did you think, Sam?
I was surprised at how good it was. I mean, you know, when they relaunched the Passport name on the previous generation in 2019, 18 or 19, you know, it was basically just a Honda Pilot with a shorter body and 2 rows.
Yeah.
And, you know, they tried to pass it off as an adventure vehicle, and they actually did the first drive program in Moab. But we didn't do any of the really tough stuff in Moab. You know, we kind of drove around in the desert out there, and it was fine. But, you know, it was not the type of vehicle that you would necessarily want to compare to, say, a Toyota 4Runner or a Jeep Grand Cherokee, which is, you know, when I talked with Todd Hemmert, who's the chief engineer on this program, you know, I asked him, what were your primary competitors for this new generation of Passport? Those were the two he identified. It's the 4Runner and the Grand Cherokee. And, you know, this one is definitely a lot more capable off-road. You know, its limits, you know, if you compare it.
Going online without ExpressVPN is like leaving your laptop unattended at the coffee shop while you run to the bathroom. Most of the time, you're probably fine. But what if one day you come out of the bathroom, your laptop's gone? Nicole, Robbie, and I all travel frequently for our work, and that means we end up connecting to open, unknown Wi-Fi networks in coffee shops like the one I was working in California last week, the Delta Sky Club in Detroit this morning, and the Puerto Rico hotel room I'm in right now. It doesn't take much technical knowledge to intercept data on an open network. A smart 12-year-old with a cheap Wi-Fi Pineapple can do it. Once they've grabbed your login information or other unencrypted data, they can make up to $1,000 per person selling it on the dark web. ExpressVPN creates a secure, encrypted tunnel between your devices and the destination you're connecting to, so they see nothing but random gibberish. All you have to do is launch the app or have it launch automatically when your device starts, and then one click protects your data. I have ExpressVPN on my MacBook Pro, Windows machines, Android phones, Chromecast, and it also works on iOS, Linux, most TV streamers, and even many routers to protect your whole network. When I look at my Wi-Fi settings on my phone or laptop, I find several hundred networks I've connected to over the years. I'm recording this ad right now sitting in a hotel room in Puerto Rico, and like every one of those open Wi-Fi networks, I use ExpressVPN to protect the data that I send to various servers and the materials I download. I often get embargoed materials from automakers and suppliers that isn't supposed to be shared until a specific date and time, so it's important that it gets downloaded securely on an encrypted network. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings.
Against comparably priced 4Runner or Grand Cherokee, I think it performs fairly similarly, and it's a pretty favorable comparison. But the Trail Sport, the Passport Trail Sport that we drove, that is kind of the limit of where the Passport goes, and then from there, you can get much more capable versions of the Jeep or the 4Runner, because they add, they have more ground clearance, they have, center locking differentials and dual 2-speed transfer cases and all kinds of other stuff that you don't get on the Passport. But within the scope of what it is, I was surprised, especially the what they call the IVTM4 system, their all-wheel drive system, which is basically what they did was they took the all-wheel drive system that they have on Acuras that they call super handling all-wheel drive, and they did a little bit of software-defined vehicle magic and made it into a really capable off-road system. Instead of doing a locking rear differential, they used the torque vectoring system from the Acuras, used completely different software to control it in a way that kind of emulates what a locking differential does.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it worked really, really surprisingly well.
I agree with you on all points. I think I wasn't quite sure what to expect because I mentioned this when I was talking about the Hyundai, like the XRT is their off-road trim. That can be wildly different things from one OEM to the next. And I thought, well, they're taking us here and they're like, the whole thing is this Trail Sport. We're going to go off-road in this. We're going to show you that it can really off-road. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see if you can. And they had us doing terrain that was surprisingly aggressive. We were going up very steep ascents. We were going down very steeply on the other side. They had us using the hill descent control, which you can change your speed by using some of them, they have speed controls that are on the steering wheel. You pip up and down. This one, you use your foot on the brake and the gas. Very easy to modulate, which isn't always. Some of them are not. Some of them are very jerky and uncomfortable. This one was very nice. It had no problem crawling right up these hills. And it was not muddy, like deep mud, but slick. Like there were spots where it was dry. There were spots
there had been quite a bit of rain the day before.
Right. So you had spots where you had that that thick, sticky
like
muck. So it wasn't that it was deep, but it was thick and sticky and slippery. And it went right up. It had no problem. So I was really genuinely impressed. And I think one of the things in talking to the folks from Honda, like they wanted to make this is not supposed to be the hardcore off-roader. That's not what they were going for. They were going for more of like, we want it to be capable. We want people to go off-road, but this isn't necessarily targeting the guy who's going to know how to use every single control that's in a Ford Bronco or a Jeep Wrangler. That can be overwhelming if you don't know how to use everything. You look at that, you're like, I don't know what to do all this stuff, right? This is supposed to be a little bit more intuitive, a little bit. It's almost like if you really know how to off-road, you don't have to think about a thing. If you don't know how to go off-road at all, it sort of walks you through the process. It's not complicated, but it's still very capable. I was genuinely impressed. I thought I was going to walk away thinking, nice try. But I walked away thinking, okay, this, you can go off-road in this. It was really good.
Yeah.
It's interesting they had you guys go to Puerto Rico because this seems very much like, this would be a great little vehicle for Hawaii because there's a lot of like dirt roads and off-road sections, and there's some like really crazy stuff that you can be doing in Hawaii. That's why the 4Runner and the Tacoma and the Tundra, like all of the like Tacoma is like the number one everything in Hawaii.
Oh, right.
But like but there's a reason for that but I feel like for a regular person who doesn't need the craziness.
Yeah.
Still needs to be able to do like 90% of the craziness. This seems like a really good alternative.
It is.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason they didn't take us to Hawaii, they went to a specific place in Puerto Rico. It's on the east end of the island of Puerto Rico. The place we were at for the off-roading was it's being built into a retreat, an outdoors retreat for cancer patients and cancer survivors. The property is owned by a guy who's a cancer survivor, and he bought this and wants to make it into an outdoors retreat for people who have or had cancer, and so Honda found this guy, and they helped with actually cutting the trails and everything, and helping with getting it set up. And so it's a pretty cool facility that they're doing there, and I think it is actually opening up. I think later this year, or early next year. But there, as I said, there are some limitations, obviously, to the Passport. It only has 8.3 inches of ground clearance, so it's not going to go, rock crawling in places where a Bronco or a Wrangler is going to go. But it does okay. And because it's all independent suspension, it doesn't have as much wheel articulation as something like the solid axles on a Wrangler. But again, it does fine. One of the things that we drove over was basically they created this big berm about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 feet high.
Yeah.
That we drove across at a diagonal, so that at one point it was basically up on like the right front and left rear wheels.
Hello.
And so you drove up, and your left front wheel was in the air, and then as you got to the top of this, I've got a photo that it's going to be the lead photo on the show art that actually shows the left front and right rear wheels both in the air. And then it tilts over, and the front wheel goes down, and then you have the right rear wheel hanging up in the air, about 3 feet in the air. But it did fine with that torque vectoring system worked really well for putting the traction where it's needed when you're doing stuff like that.
And when you talked about the wheels being, catty corner up in the air versus being actually down on the ground, one of the things I always think about when I drive something off road like that, and there's wheels in the air, just how you'll see the car we're following each other. I can see the car in front of me. I know exactly what's about to happen. So I know what my wheels are going to do in 2 seconds. But sometimes you can really feel it in a very negative way. And other times you're like, oh yeah, I can kind of feel this, because the car controls itself well. It's not these crazy motions. Now, if you go careening through something like that, yeah, you're going to feel it. But even going slowly, sometimes that stuff is disconcerting. Other times you think, okay, you know what? This managed this really well. It wasn't scary. Whereas some vehicles will scare you when that happens. It was very controlled. So again, stuff that I did not expect to experience. Like, that was to see how much that was up in the air, and then to be in the car and think, okay, a little bit. It was really well done.
I did the Jaguar I-Pace drive, the initial pace in Portugal, and one of the things that you're like, oh, we're just gonna drive around the I-Pace and it'll be fine. And no, they had us drive through like a deep water.
Yeah.
Oh
and
my
then
gosh.
up the hill.
I remember seeing pictures and video of that.
And then we went on a track, and it was like all the things, like, oh, okay, then well, I guess we're doing this off-road bit through a body of water, and then we're gonna go drive on a track the next day in the same car. Okay, yeah. So this seems like one of those things where, like, we're gonna do some off-roading. You're like, all right, sure. Wink, wink.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Passport is really, really roomy inside. It's pretty. It feels like a much bigger vehicle than it is. There's 44 cubic feet of cargo space behind the rear seats. So with the rear seats up in use, you got 44 cubic feet, and then 84 with the seats folded.
Yeah.
So
you can put a lot of mulch, or a whole bunch of bales.
A whole
of straw
tire in the back of yours.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. One of the accessories that you can get, if you are going to do some off-roading, it's always a good thing to have, a proper spare tire, because sometimes, if you're off-roading, sharp rocks can cut your tires, and, a tire inflator kit ain't going to fix that. So you can get an optional full-size spare. It comes with a space saver spare, which is not very useful off-road. But you can get a full-size spare that stands up in the cargo area on the side, and you strap it to the side of the cargo area, and you still have a lot of cargo space left, even with that there.
Yeah, there's like still a lot of room, and there's little cup holders too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and they have a table now. Do you remember
Got
the
the table
Honda?
back?
Like
It's
the original
way better.
CRV.
Yeah,
So
we
the
used to have
original
we had a
it was
CRV that had the table in
same,
it.
same.
Yeah.
We had one, but it was like a rickety table. It was like a card table kind of fold out thing, and it was
Yeah.
like was not sturdy. The new one, like the engineers are like, oh no. So that this is actually really cool. So where you normally would have like your cargo cover, if you were going to pull out the little cover, you can get this, and it serves as the cargo cover, but it's this hard surface. You can stack stuff on it. It's like really hard. You unclip it, you take it out. There's a little storage spot next to the spare, which is why I thought of this. And it has the table legs, and they're much thicker. Like before, they were like
Oh
tiny
yeah,
little table legs,
yeah, it was like a card table.
like a
Like
card table.
you had to put a bowl of something on it, keep it from blowing away.
Right now, they're like, I don't know. Is it? You're an engineer, Sam. What are they? 2-inch diameter or something? They were bigger.
I don't know. I can't remember.
So they
didn't
were
look
they
at
were
it.
Boo, engineer
substantial, and they actually screw
I was
into.
busy
Like,
getting pictures of the iguana.
oh yeah, you were doing
Yeah.
iguana pictures, but so they're metal. They have metal screws that screw into the table, like screw. So they're sturdy. You plop that down, like it is a sturdy table. It's a greatly improved CRV table, and I love that there's little spots for the little legs to store in there, like a little pod. It's very cool. That was one of my favorite features. I'm like, there's a table.
All right. Anything else you want to say about the Passport?
No, that was it. I think that's it.
Yeah. And price wise, starts at $46,200, including the destination charge. The loaded Trail Sport Elite Blackout is $55,100. So,
Oh, there's a table picture.
Do you see it? Isn't it
Wow.
cool?
All right.
It's much sturdier if you remember the table of old. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I
"Look
do
at that."
remember the table of old. It
Yeah,
was like
I can't
it was
believe-
essentially just a card table that they put.
It was
in
a
there.
card table. Yep, you couldn't sit on it. I bet you could sit on this and it'd be fine. I don't know. I didn't try, but still.
and also the lunch they served us at the top of the hill was really, really good. There was one of the things we had was some rice and beans with plantains and chorizo in it.
It was like the best rice I've ever had in my whole
Yeah.
life. I went back literally. I got a little bit of chicken, a little bit of meat, a little bit of rice. I went back just for rice because the rice was so good.
Yeah, that and the grilled churrasco was wonderful.
It's good food. They did have tasty food.
All right. Let's move on. Aptera. You guys have got your
Yeah,
pre-orders in
they're
for an
still here.
Aptera, right?
Sure, I
No,
do.
They've invited me to a few things, and I always think that they're like by the time I say yes, they're not going to be around, and yet they continue. They persevere.
Well, they did go away for about 6 or 7 years because they went bankrupt in like 2011 or 2012, and then it got revived in about 2019. So for those not familiar with the Aptera, this is a little teardrop-shaped 3-wheeled vehicle. When it was originally shown, I want to say back about 2006 or 7, it had a tiny little internal combustion engine in the back. They eventually switched that to an electric drive system. And the whole premise is it's supposed to be, very, very aerodynamic, make it really super efficient. And when they revived it in 2019, one of the things that they changed, they kept the basic design, but they added a bunch of solar cells all over the top of the body. And, they claim that with the largest battery pack and the solar cells, this thing will be able to go over 1,000 miles on a charge.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anyway,
Sure it will.
they recently did a road trip, claimed 300 plus mile road trip that went from Flagstaff, Arizona, through Lake Havasu and onto Imperial Valley, California. And I watched a video that the Out of Spec guys did about this. And, there's some stuff that's not mentioned in the blog post from Aptera, but if you look, where Flagstaff is versus Imperial Valley, there's about a 7,000 foot elevation change. And, Aptera claims that, that this vehicle will be able to get 10 miles per kilowatt hour, which is phenomenally efficient.
Mhm.
as it was, doing this road trip, it got 8 miles per kilowatt hour, which is also still a phenomenally good number,
Yeah.
except that you're basically going downhill
Details.
more than 7,000 feet.
Details.
Yeah.
So, the fact that they couldn't hit their main number,
Going downhill.
going downhill, is not a very positive sign for this thing.
I just think it's the weirdest little thing. Like I don't want a 3-wheel car. I don't want a 3-wheel car. I want a 4-wheel car. I want cars with 4 wheels.
The reason why it's a 3-wheeler is because, as a 3-wheeler, it's classified as a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah, true. But I no.
So it's able
What is
to
it? Auto car? I think auto car, is that the classification? There's like 3-wheelers is like a weird. It's not a car. It's like a motorcycle, but it's not.
Oh, there's some other in between classification for it.
There was some stuff that I was driving before that, like, I think that it was classified like auto car. So yeah, so you don't have to worry about it like exploding when it runs into something because there's no. Yeah, it's like a motorcycle. It doesn't have to worry about crash tests because the crash test in a motorcycle is you.
Yeah, I mean, I interviewed the folks from Aptera like 16 years ago, and they claimed, even though it doesn't have to meet all the crash standards of a car, they were designing it to meet those standards, and they claimed that it would meet all the same crash standards as any conventional car.
Really?
But 16 years ago was a different crash standard.
Would it pass it today? Because the tests truly have gotten harder. Like, regular OEMs have struggled with some of those. What is it? The front crash offset? I'm remembering the title right.
Small offset rigid barrier.
Small offset. Test. Yes, there we go. Small offset rigid barrier. That one.
Well, in the case of this thing, if you look at it, it's got you've got the body, and then the front wheels are kind of. Like it's almost like an open wheel race car. They're kind of out. The suspension is sticking out from the body, so the wheels are not within the body.
No,
the front wheels. So if you actually did the small offset rigid barrier test, because you're supposed to have a 25% overlap. 25% overlap is basically just going to hit the edge of the body, and it's just going to rip the front wheel off.
Take the wheels off and you look like you sideswiped.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe it is okay.
Yeah.
I if you're doing the work, if you're doing the research and the research is real and you really care about like what's great. There's no, but I just don't know what the market is for this. There are people who are going to buy this.
Did they give a price on how much this is? Did we say that or did I miss it? Have they ever given? I don't see anything.
Now. Oh, target price $40,000. $100 deposit due today.
Oof.
See, and again, there's going to be people that are going to sell 20,000 units a year of this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very, very niche vehicle, especially in a world with EVs becoming far and far, more and more efficient, and the potential for well, maybe not now, but less expensive EVs as the software and the hardware and everything.
Right.
The economies of scale, and that thing.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, how many slingshots does Polaris sell?
Yeah, probably not a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
mostly they sell. I think they sell a lot of them to people who want to ride it or drive it around for the weekend. I think it's a fun, like, hey, I'm going to drive this around for the weekend.
It's kicks and giggles. It's for a lark kind of thing. Yeah.
So but that's like a fun car. They're like, yay, I got Slingshot. Like, I look up Slingshot. The second thing is rent a Slingshot.
Right? Like it's like when people go someplace and they rent a Mustang in Florida because it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like a convertible Mustang. You don't want to buy one, but you're going to rent one on vacation. I feel like that's what Polaris is.
Yeah. That's the Polaris thing. The Aptera is a very niche market. If they can make it work, good for them. It's tough when your drive program, the drive that you show everybody off starts at 7,000 feet and ends in the Imperial Valley, which is lower. I would be interested in taking like an EV, like an EV9. I took the EV9 from Tahoe to Tahoe once, and I was driving it back, and on down the hill I was getting like some crazy like 99 miles per kilowatt hour or something. I think I can find it. Well, everyone keep talking. I'm gonna look up Lake Tahoe.
Well, I mean, I think, like you say, this is going to be a niche product, assuming it ever makes it to production. Which after 18 years or so, who knows? Maybe someday it might.
And you said you talked to them, but it was a long time ago, right?
Yeah, it was in 2009.
You should talk to him again. We should talk to him again. We should say, "Are you actually going to build a car?"
I've been invited. I just don't. I don't know. I don't see. Because I mean the Mercedes EQXX had like solar panels on it.
Mhm.
And they're like, yeah, because of these solar panels, now we can use the power from this to run the infotainment system.
Yeah.
Not to run the car, but to run the infotainment system.
I'm curious
And
about
Mercedes has a big pile of money.
I want to know what this drives like. I want to know if it drives like something you'd want to drive, or if you feel like you're driving a teardrop. I don't know. This is weird. I want to drive this. I want to drive it.
Does it need 400 miles of range? That's the other thing.
Probably not. I mean, I don't know that you want to go 400 miles in this thing.
I know what you want to drive. I don't know. Have we sat inside of it? None of us have we? No.
So I feel like they can make one that does 150 miles of range.
Maybe it is
make it a bit more comfortable, and then everyone can have a party.
Maybe it's like super, super comfy and loungy, and you just love it.
Maybe.
You're like, I'd drive forever in this thing.
There's a lot of what ifs in this vehicle right now.
I'm giving it a lot of what ifs. Yeah, it could be. It could be amazing.
We want to believe. We're like the
I want to believe. I'm like the
X-Files. want to believe in your vehicle.
I'm the Mulder of Aptera. I want to believe that this is going to be great. Yeah.
Give us the car.
Let us drive one.
That's the only way.
Let's move on. That's enough about Aptera. We've already talked about them too much.
Okay.
The Icon is a company that builds resto mods. They take old vehicles and they put updated hardware under them. This week they announced their latest product, the Icon Bronco EV. So it's a first generation Bronco, a 1970 Bronco.
Oh.
With 105 kilowatt hour battery pack, 500 horsepower. And cost $449,000.
Oh my
God. Okay, hold on.
Oh my God. Did you
hold on.
Almost
Kindred.
No, that is way too much. I don't care how cool it is. No.
I mean, it's really cool.
I don't.
Where I'm trying to look. There's a lot. What is it? Which one is it? The Icon.
The Icon EV Bronco.
I can't find. Which one is that?
So now, okay, you can get one from Kindred.
Let me put a different link in the show notes here.
So there's a company called Kindred here in Northern California. They have an EV Bronco. And this EV Bronco from Kindred, $225,000.
Oh, it's a bargain.
It's a bargain. That's practically nothing.
I talked to them for TechCrunch. Yeah. Anyway, they hire local folks to work on these vehicles. They have this whole they have pretty interesting way that they build these vehicles. They essentially tear it down and then they create how-tos for their staff and how to build these vehicles. This is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
It does look amazing. I will give you that. This is incredibly cool looking. $449,000?
Yeah.
No. No.
Like, why is it this much money? Okay, I'm looking at this. I'm gonna move the two tabs next to each other.
Yeah, I'm like, why? No, it's lovely. The shiny blue one in this picture is beautiful.
They do a full restoration on it and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it actually the physical body of the vehicle is like gorgeous. It looks fabulous. Like clearly, there's been some money spent into making it look cool.
Still, save yourself $200,000. I just dropped the link in our chat because they do the same thing.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, yeah. Why would I? Yeah, I'm going with Robbie's Kindred Motorworks. Is that what that one is?
Yeah,
I'm going with Kindred Motorworks. Mm-hmm.
You can get the same blue.
I was just gonna say. I just was about to say that. I'm like, they have the same blue. What is it called? Slate blue? I believe it's slate blue.
Lake blue.
This is slate on this one. Is it lake?
Oh, there's another.
There's also lake. There's Slate and Lake, either one of which you can get on the Kindred.
Yeah.
Whew. That's
With a light cream
maybe,
hard
I'm sure
top.
they're probably doing some other stuff too. So
Yeah.
It's very cool though.
All right. Let's see. Volvo's got a new old CEO this week.
A new old CEO.
the new old CEO, which is not.
Yeah, 2 years ago, Håkan Samuelsson retired as CEO of Volvo after leading the revival of the company after it was bought by Geely, and did a lot of great stuff at Volvo. He retired, and they hired Jim Rowan, the former CEO of Dyson, to run Volvo. I guess the powers that be at Geely, which owns Volvo, decided he wasn't doing it. Jim Rowan wasn't doing enough, and so they've asked him to leave, and they brought back Håkan Samuelsson on a 2-year contract while they look for a new permanent CEO.
Robbie, would you stop torturing your dog?
He's like I went and let him in the office.
Is that Bowie?
My wife has left for work, and so now he's just like, let's party. I'm gonna let him out of the office.
Okay.
So our old CEO is new again.
Yeah. So Håkan Samuelsson is back as Volvo CEO. And they haven't given any details as to why. Sales have done pretty well under Rowan, but profits are down a bit. So I think they wanted somebody who was gonna. I think they want somebody who's gonna make Volvo grow faster.
Hopefully, he'll be able to do it. Yeah, Volvo's having a little struggle bus lately.
Yeah, well, a lot of companies are.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right, the Seoul Motor Show is going on right now.
It is
in South Korea, and as the hometown show for Hyundai, they showed off a bunch of new and interesting stuff. Let's start with the Instaroid.
I love how this looks. This is ridiculous.
So the Inster is a tiny little subcompact car that they sell in Korea and some other markets.
And I love the Inster, by the way. I think it's cool. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm mad we can't buy it here.
Well, I mean, there'd be at least 3 or 4 people Americans that would buy it.
Totally. Maybe even 5.
Well, I think they would sell 10,000 and then that would be the end of it.
Yeah.
It would sell and be done in a heartbeat. Yes.
Yeah. Like people who want it would get it. And then everyone else would be like,
nobody else would want it. Yep.
I don't want to buy it.
Like, I'm not buying that thing. Yes. That's exactly what happened. I get why they don't bring it here. I don't have to like
crazy.
it.
But the Instaroid looks like a Pikes Peak hill climb special. It's electric. And I would be very shocked if we don't see this thing at Pikes Peak this summer.
It is so cool looking.
Yeah.
It is so the orange, like the way the wheels are different in the front and the back and the orange accents. It's got the little pixel thing going on. That redonkulous wing situation. I love this. I love it.
Yeah, it's cool. So it's on display in Seoul this week. It's I want to see this climb Pikes Peak this summer. That's what
I just want to see it, because if you look inside, and it's funny, they say gamified design concept, and that's exactly what it looks like. It's this crazy.
Yeah, it looks like a Pac-Man right there behind the steering wheel.
There's like a little Pac-Man thing on there. I want a car that has like a little character on it. I want a little face like that. Yeah. Like, hey, enjoy your car today. Blink, blink. I want that in my car.
All right. Next up is the new Hyundai Nexo. So we saw this as a concept last year, and now the production version is basically unchanged. I don't know if Hyundai is going to bring this Nexo, the second generation Nexo, to the U.S. market. I think they might just give up on trying to sell fuel cell cars here.
I mean, it's just not. We aren't there. I don't think we're there.
We have fewer stations than before,
right?
We're not going forward. We're going backwards.
We're going backwards. I don't think that. Maybe someday. I don't think that day is now.
For consumer vehicles, I'm not sure that day is ever going to be.
I don't know. I don't think.
I have a theory about the future of I'll just share it now.
Okay, share this.
As we do hydrogen for large, like long haul trucking, you'll build they'll build infrastructure along the corridor because it's easy and relatively speaking to build that infrastructure, and from that you can have a passenger vehicle charging infrastructure that sort of spider webs from that. Other than that, hydrogen is not going to be a big thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a thing.
A fun callback, when I was driving down from Tahoe in the EV9, I went 14.7 miles at one point, and my average was 933 miles per kilowatt hour.
Nice.
That's awesome.
See? Way more efficient than an Aptera.
Yeah. Way more efficient.
And then finally, the refreshed version of the Ioniq 6 sedan. What do you think of these changes to the Ioniq 6?
It's funky in the front.
It's gonna get you.
Yeah. Looks kind of sharp.
It's like yeah. Do you like it?
I'm not sure yet.
That's the thing. Is like I like it, but I'm like, well, do I like it? It feels so like
the end line
in the background. You can see the end line, and so that gives you a good idea what the back will look like.
Well, that's the end.
Without the giant double wing.
Yeah,
so there's pictures. If you scroll down enough, they do have a picture, I think, of the back.
Yeah, there's pictures of the back of the standard versions.
Okay.
And they did get rid of that second spoiler that was at the base of the windshield, or the base of the back window.
Oh, right.
So now it just slopes down. You've still got the little ducktail spoiler right at the edge, but you don't have the biplane spoiler anymore.
Yeah.
So they got rid of that, and then at the front, you've got these very slimline lights. You've got a slim row of pixel LEDs for the running lights, and then the headlights are kind of hidden below that, a little bit lower down in the front fascia.
I have to ask, I'm looking at a picture of the interior where they have all the controls. It's giving me Corvette vibes with that. Were there always? It looks like the window controls are all in the center. Was that always that way?
No.
I just don't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure those were there all
because
along.
It's like heated cooled seats, heated steering wheel, parking stuff, auto hold, cameras, lock and unlock, window, and I can't tell what the last one is. I think it might be the window lock. There's a lot of buttons.
Good.
In a big row.
Good. Yeah, but they're all like packed together.
They are packed together.
I'll know how to heat up my seats. I'll know how to
they did rearrange it a little bit.
That looks different to me, maybe, but
kind of like they did with the Ioniq 5. They moved the cup holders over to the right a little bit, and you've got that row of the window buttons. The window buttons were on the center console before.
Oh, they were. Okay, I just don't remember that. I believe
they were behind, so you had the cup holders and then the window buttons and the other control behind
so that's
that.
Why it looks
now they're
different
alongside. Yeah,
I do like how they've done that. I love how they do the storage in this, because you see there's like the charging pad, and then there's a little cubby behind all the buttons, and they have that huge section underneath. They do great storage in Hyundais.
Yeah.
I like this if they've solved the rear headroom problem for tall people, but I don't think they have.
They have not.
It does not look like it.
I watched the TFL video that Tommy posted this morning, and Tommy's like 6 foot, and his head was up against the roof. Yeah.
Okay. So Tommy.
So yeah, if you want to carry taller people in the back seat, get the Ioniq 5.
Yeah, just get the Ioniq 5. If you got a dog, if you got a German Shepherd that sits in your back seat all day, get the Ioniq 5.
Well, the German Shepherd would probably be fine in the 6 in the sedan.
Yeah, but you want to give him a little extra something.
You want to be bounce around a little bit, be able to perk up his little,
want to be able to stand up with his little head. He can look around, look out the window.
Okay.
Bark at people.
It's like, okay, fine, whatever.
All right. Let's see what else. I think that's it. I don't want to talk about that one.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. When we were in Puerto Rico, I did talk with Todd Hemmert, the chief engineer on the Passport, and so I will include that here at the end, as well as a conversation that I had yesterday with Brian Bouch, who is the director of North American Safety Strategy at Honda, and we talked about safety and how they're approaching that for hands off, eyes on, and hands off, eyes off systems, because they're going to have a hands off, eyes off system, which is commonly referred to as level 3 automation on their 0 series EVs. That's going to include camera, radar, and lidars. But we talked about things like the interface, the driver interface, and how you communicate, how the vehicle communicates with the driver, and how you do testing, things like that. So both of those will be coming up right after we say goodbye, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Todd, you're the chief engineer, or I think in proper Honda terminology, the large project leader.
Yes, sir.
For the Passport.
That's correct.
So the previous generation Passport was basically just a shortened 2-row version of the Pilot. This one's quite a bit different. Tell me, give me some of the highlights of what changed. I guess what was the overall strategy, first of all, for creating this vehicle?
Really to differentiate it from the Pilot and go after a different customer, go after that empty nester or single, male single, or female that had that venture mindset, to really have that outdoors and want to explore. So that was our major change point, to really then have the family customer be taken care of by the Pilot, and the Passport is more that kind of new customer for us.
So in doing that, what are the major things that you changed to really create that differentiation beyond obviously the styling, which is quite a bit different?
Well, we first looked at the overall proportions of the car, and so we said, we need this to have not only the look of performance, but also be able to do it. So we shortened the front overhang by about 70 to 75 millimeters to kind of give it that stance that we were looking for. We bumped out the track about, I think the actual numbers are in there, like maybe an inch and a half for the track to get that better stance too. Then of course you mentioned all the new styling items, but we put recovery hooks on the vehicle. We really updated the overall performance of having rock sliders available and kind of those added benefits to the vehicle.
And unlike some of the more, let's say, hardcore off-road SUVs that are out there, you don't have any locking differentials or anything like that, right?
No, we have a twin clutch at the rear, and we can move 70% of the engine torque to the rear, and then of that 70%, 100% can go to the right wheel or left wheel, depending on which one has traction. So
mechanically, is that twin clutch system basically the same as the super handling all-wheel drive that we've had on Acura performance vehicles for a while, but obviously different control strategy for how to use it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is same hardware.
So that ability to shift the torque on the rear axle 100% to either side, that basically gets you the same kind of functionality as you get with a locking differential, right?
Yeah. And then we also, if you drag the brakes, you get also a torque vectoring kind of in the front, going across the front axles. So that's also a way to also conquer some terrain that you weren't really prepared for.
Right. So, how about ground clearance? Does this have more ground clearance than a Pilot, or?
Oh, it's same as the Pilot. It's 210 millimeters. I think it's 8.3 inches of ground clearance. But we really fortified the underbody structure. So there's skid plates and rock sliders. So we were not worried about ever hitting any kind of contact. And that lower ground clearance, of course, benefits on-road performance. The car does live on the on-road, so it helps with the fuel economy and performance in that way, and the handling and the ride comfort also too. So
yeah, and you mentioned those skid plates. You've got 2 skid plates that are on there. Are those just on the Trail Sport, or?
Yeah, they're on the Trail Sport as standard equipment, along with a trailer hitch that's also standard now. The previous Passport didn't have a trailer hitch standard, so a lot of added new equipment for the customer to take their boy toys out and go to that fun spot.
Yeah. And over here on the table, you've got some skid plates from competitors from a Toyota 4Runner, I think, and a Subaru. The skid plates you've got on the Passport to protect the powertrain and the fuel tank look quite a bit beefier than those.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, we really worked with our ATV, our off-road equipment. People have been doing it a little longer than we have, for skid plates. So we learned a lot about how to design those and make sure there's no functional loss, driving through tall weeds, through mud. How does that, sticking up stones, making sure we understand how that will affect the overall skid plates. We also designed them to be able to pick the entire vehicle up. So if you fall on a rock, it'll support the entire weight of the vehicle and plus the impact. So you probably saw some of them are scratched up. They're about 5 years old, and there's no dents in them at all. So high strength steel, very, very thick protection for the customer.
And is this the first time that Honda has offered rock rails on any of its vehicles?
Yes, it is the first time. It's also the first time we put the largest OD tire. It's a 31-inch tire from from the factory. So that's another first for us, and also first for recovery hooks. I know a lot of cars have those, but this is Honda's first to have those exposed recovery hooks that do as if you hit them in a crash impact, they break away or they fall off, so it doesn't impact the overall G for the airbag deployments and things like that in our structure.
Are there any recovery points on the rear end of the vehicles?
They are. They're incorporated in the trailer hitch.
Oh, okay.
And loops on there, and of course you can put a device in the hitch itself too.
Right. Yeah, you put a loop on there.
Yeah.
Okay. Or shackle, I think.
Receiver and shackle.
Yeah. Any other major changes on here relative to Pilot or Ridgeline or?
From the Ridgeline, of course, we had the new 1080 transmission, the brand new engine. It's the dual overhead cam engine, 5 additional horsepower, 285 horsepower. So very, very smooth.
Still 3.5.
Still 3.5, but it's dual overhead cam. Better emissions in that case for us. So that's the improvement there in the powertrain area.
Okay. And this is the first application for the 10-speed automatic?
For the Passport, yeah.
Or for the Passport?
The Pilot does have
It's already got it.
Yeah, it did already apply that.
Okay. Any other highlights of the Passport that you want to talk about?
We really expanded our accessory offerings. So we got this pool picnic table that acts as a shelf, allow that flexibility for the customer to store a lot of their gear
In the cargo area?
We also have a full-size tire in the cargo area.
Yeah, I noticed that on the orange one here.
Yeah. So that's kind of a new item. We have Molly panels and we have roof platforms. So the customer can really optimize their car for their needs and kind of like their experiences. Great rear seat comfort. We expanded that where I think we're class leading in that area. And really overall ride comfort on road. We think we have a great combination of off-road performance, but really fantastic. Honda's known for their on-road performance. So we think we're a class, by ourselves compared to the 4Runner or the Grand Cherokee in that respect.
Is there still a mini spare under the floor?
Yep.
Okay, but you have the option of that.
Option size. Yeah.
And then,
You can store a large mountain bike, 2 of them in there.
okay.
So lots of space.
Yeah, it's pretty wide.
Mhm.
What would you consider the primary competitors to this vehicle? I mean, what are you targeting?
The 4Runner was one of our targets. And also the Grand Cherokee was our 2 main competitors that we were looking at.
Okay, so not quite going after like the Wranglers and Broncos of the world.
No, we're really targeting that kind of open space we feel, and we think we did it pretty well.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Todd.
No problem, Sam. Hopefully I answered most of your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great.
Hey everyone, just had a great conversation with Brian Bouch, who is the Director of North American Safety Strategy for American Honda. We talked about more advanced, partially and conditionally automated driving systems, which level 3 systems, hands-off, eyes-off systems are coming next year to the Honda Zero Series. And we talked a little bit about not that specific system, but just in general about how you handle safety with those types of systems. Brian Bouch, Director of I've forgotten again already.
Safety strategy.
Strategy for Honda, American Honda. Thanks for joining me today. So Honda was the first automaker that I think was the first automaker to launch a so-called level 3 conditionally automated system, which means that it's hands off and eyes off, but still brain on. The driver has to be behind the wheel. It's a step beyond what we see in the market today for the most part, which is hands off, eyes on system where the drivers still have to supervise continuously.
Mm-hmm.
I know you can't talk about what's coming for the Zero Series, the new products. It was mentioned I think when those were announced that they're going to have some sort of level 3 system on there. But what I'd like to talk about is just more generally, kind of the philosophy from Honda as far as these types of systems go from a safety perspective. As I said, Honda was the first to launch a system in very limited volume in Japan a few years back on the Legend sedan. But What is Honda's overall strategy or approach when it comes to these escalating levels of partial automation?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it fits nicely with our strategy. That is to continue evolving technology. Technology is critical, especially in the safety space, right? And this is the announcement that was at CES in January is just the next evolution of our active safety suite, right? We started with Honda Sensing. We've now launched our Honda Sensing 360, which is available on the new Acura MDX. And our plan is to get that on 100% of our vehicles by 2030. Then this level 3, which was announced on our Zero series, is the eyes off, as you alluded to, building off of what we launched in 2021 in Japan with the Honda Legend. And it's, again, the evolution to continue advancing our technology so that we can ultimately achieve, which is our goal, of a collision-free society. And so the technology that is being added in the additional hardware and additional software is all part of our evolution inside our technical space.
So, I mean, I've been following this space for many years now, and writing a lot about it, talking a lot about it, and with the what we commonly refer to as level 2+ systems, the hands-off, eyes-on systems.
Right.
As you go further up the scale towards fully automated or highly automated vehicles, like robo-taxis, the challenge becomes how do you keep where you're not fully automated, how do you keep the driver engaged and ready to take over when the system reaches the limits of its capabilities?
Right.
And if you could talk maybe a little bit about what you see there, in the hands-off, eyes-on, and then how that transitions into the eyes-off type of capabilities.
Right. Yeah. And it's developing and designing systems that are intuitive, and also educating the consumers, the customers, on how the systems work. Because if they're not aware of when the vehicle might call you back to take over, for example, in the level 3 condition, right, we need to educate so that it's clear and it's intuitive. But for the level 2, for example, our Honda Sensing, Honda Sensing 360 suite, it is all about that, getting it intuitive, getting it easy to use, and repeatable and reliable systems so that the customers understand exactly what's happening. Then getting that trust, and that's how we can build into the level 3 and eventually the level 4 and 5, is gaining the trust so that the customers understand how the systems work, why it's there, how it's working, and then they can understand that the vehicle is calling, say, for example, to put your eyes back on the wheel or on the road and your hands back on the wheel, given, to your point, that maybe it's met its highest level of expectations of that vehicle, right? It's kind of given the control back to the customer. So it's education, it's intuitive use, and it's a designing so that the systems are easy to understand.
So on the education front, is Honda developing plans or strategies for how you're going to work with your dealers to help them educate customers when they get these types of systems, to make sure the customers understand what the limits are? Because that's always one of the challenges, when from a marketing perspective, you obviously, you want to, make customers want to pay for this.
Right.
But then, how do you say, this is a great system, but it can only do this. It can't go beyond this point. How do you educate customers for that?
No, you're right. And we have a close relationship with our dealerships, and to your exact point of educating them, getting them enough information so that they can then share it with the dealers. We actually make several videos that we can even send you that are on YouTube on how the current systems work. How does lane keep work? How does autonomous braking work, and those sort of systems? But it's important that that information then gets transferred to the customer so that they can understand exactly, okay, when that it's beeping or when this light indicates, something, the customers clearly understand what that feedback is from the vehicle. That's critical.
So, I mean, today, there's currently a hands-off system that's available on the Acura ZDX, and then as you get into the 0 Series and beyond, you'll have eyes off. Will part of that training? Do you expect part of that training to include actually when or before a customer takes delivery, going out on the road with the customer to make sure they really understand it?
That I can't speak to. I don't know the details of our plans. I would imagine that would be very helpful as a test drive. The dealership could go and have the customers with the Honda dealer, in the vehicle and be able to educate them real time. But the details of that I don't know, and I can't really speak to that right now. Yeah, I'm not too sure.
So I've had the opportunity over the last, since 2017 when GM first launched Super Cruise, to try out most of the systems that are in the market today. And there's a variety of approaches that have been taken by various manufacturers in terms of the human machine interface, how you communicate, how the vehicle communicates information to the driver about the current state of the system, what mode it's in, what it's capable of doing right now, and communicating how to or when the driver needs to take back control. What is Honda's philosophy on how that interface is going to work?
No, and it's a good point, because there's a balance between sending too much information, because then it becomes white noise, and distracting, which is also opposite of what we want to include inside of a driving environment. But sending it at appropriate times and balancing what I just said is not making it too overbearing so that the customer turns it off, for example, or just ignores it, that it always beeps at me or something like that. So it's the design philosophy is to balance and hit that sweet spot so that we're indicating information at the appropriate time and at the appropriate amount of times, and not overburdening the driver in some situations.
So, there, as I said, there are various approaches that have been done by different manufacturers. The system that's on the ZDX has a light bar in the steering wheel, and I think it's got the haptic feedback in the seat. I think the ZDX has that feature in there, if I recall correctly. And then, there's also capacitive sensors in the steering wheel. Other approaches, are less than that. Just having some icons in the instrument cluster,
right?
And sometimes having a color scheme in the instrument cluster where that change in the state is not always readily apparent, or it's not really obvious when it changes state. Like Ford, for example, with Blue Cruise, that's been one of the things I've criticized much about theirs. What's I guess if you can give some idea of kind of where you see that right balance that you talked about.
Yeah, and it's critical. I can't speak to the details, especially for the 0 Series yet, on that interface, because it is important, but it is part of our design criteria. Absolutely, that it's indicating, giving enough feedback that's not overwhelming, but it's a good balance. So yeah, I can't speak to the details yet, but it's critical, and it's part of our design criteria for sure.
Okay, and then as you go, I guess I'm interested in what your thoughts are on this. One of the things that I've always noticed ever since I first drove Super Cruise almost 8 years ago now, that with these systems, you're reducing some traditional driver workloads, and the most manufacturers, advertise those systems as being very much convenience features rather than talking about them as safety features. And obviously they have to be safe, but they don't promote it. Well, apart from Tesla, they don't generally promote it as a safety feature. Is that the direction that Honda is taking with that as well?
And with the both software and hardware that is included in getting to a level 3 or getting into an eyes off condition, That enables us to provide a better field of view, more of a 360 view with camera, with LiDAR, with radar, so that it enables increased field of view, for example, on a turning or a corner, or being able to pick up, pedestrians at maybe different angles that older technologies weren't able to do. So because of the technology, both software and hardware, and those advancements, then increased active safety features and technologies and performance can be realized. So it's kind of the whole package and the evolution of the hardware and the software.
Okay. And then, again, one of the big challenges is you get into the level 3, because even at level 2+, that the hands off, eyes on, the systems are creating new cognitive workloads for the driver, because they, rather than actively driving the vehicle, they are supervising automation that works most of the time, and trying to make sure that they're staying engaged is a challenge. And as you go to an eyes off system, now it's even harder to make sure that they're ready to take over. What do you see as the time frame? How much time is required from the time the system decides, okay, I need the driver to step in here before they actually take over? And how do you make sure that they are ready to take over, and that they have that situational awareness that they need?
Right. That level of detail I can't speak to. I'm not aware of that. But again, it would be part of our design criteria that other teams would be tackling, making sure that they balance that right
Hey,
time.
Sam, I'll jump in a little bit, and this is speaking to the old system that was on the Legend. So that was the first level 3 system certified by a government regulator in Japan. And with that system, it was very, very low speed, traffic jam speed at level 3 with eyes off. And if traffic eased and your set speed, your desired speed was set at higher than what the level 3 can achieve, where we'd allow it to be in level 3 mode, it had a sequence of alerts to the driver, visual, even so much as like vibrating the seat, audible, of course, things like that, to alert you that you needed to take back over the driving task. If it determined that the driver was not doing that, it would not accelerate to those higher speeds. In fact, it might at a certain point presume that the driver has become incapacitated, and it has a program to be able to turn on the flashers and pull the vehicle to the side of the road to get it out of traffic. So in the slow speed sorts of scenarios where we've engaged level 3 before, there is a fair amount of thought that's gone into that transition, and what happens if it doesn't, if the person doesn't take back over, if they don't actively take back over. It's not just going to go off and accelerate, up into those higher speeds without confirming that the driver is actually paying attention again.
Okay. And do you happen to know roughly how much time was given to the driver to re-engage?
I've experienced it myself, but I don't know that I can quantify it exactly. It was more than a few seconds.
Okay.
And again, these are really, really slow speeds at that original.
Yeah, I think that system was limited to 50 kilometers an hour, so about 30 miles an hour.
It was very, very slow. So the consequences of a mistake at those speeds are more just minor vehicle damage than typically injury or loss of life. So obviously, as speeds increase, that's when this question becomes a little bit more pertinent. And, it is certainly our aspiration to increase the speeds at which level 3 can be engaged. That's our aspiration. But that's going to kind of walk together with regulation and also with vehicle technology becoming more capable.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Obviously, regulation is a challenge. We don't, here in the U.S. at least, we don't currently have anything at a federal level that governs how these systems work. So I'm curious, Brian, what do you see as the strategy or what's Honda's strategy, to the degree you can talk about it, for validating the safety of these systems?
Yeah, and that's obviously utmost important is reliability and safety, and preventing collisions that a human could have avoided or could have prevented. And you hit on a great point, Sam, of the federal legislation and regulation that doesn't exist. There's been a lot of discussions from our side, Honda side, and then other OEMs as well, directly talking with NHTSA, for example, and the government to talk about trying to, instead of state by state, have a federal regulation. And there's some programs in place to kind of vet that out, but that's critical so that we can understand how to really develop these systems in a federal level and not have to worry about state to state or only selling them in, for certain regions of the country. So those legislation and those discussions with legislators are ongoing from our side.
And I don't want to dive into politics here, but we have to acknowledge the reality of the current political situation in the U.S.
Right.
Given that, has there been any sort of industry-wide approach, perhaps potentially some sort of collaboration between manufacturers, suppliers, to maybe develop an industry standard, maybe perhaps through SAE or some other means, to say, here's how we would propose doing this. And I know, for example, here I'm just outside of Ann Arbor. The director of M-City, Dr. Henry Liu, who you may know, has proposed a framework, a safety testing framework for automation. Is there anything that Honda is doing either by itself or perhaps with other automakers to try and get something out there that then states could pick up on?
We've had, I personally have had high level discussions with some members of other OEMs at just recently at our SAE government industry meeting in DC, and then also a Lifesavers conference here in Long Beach, at a very, very high level. And to your point of the current administration and the focus on either deregulation or lack of moving regulation forward, that it really is going to rely on, to your point, consortiums or non-regulatory action that could be voluntary commitment or some sort of MOU that we would sign. I've only been at high-level discussions regarding EV or autonomous vehicles, or AD or AV. We've had other discussions in other areas of safety, and we're actually holding different meetings discussing how to move forward without regulation and potentially partnering with SAE or AFAI or IIHS as a partner to really help us, move forward that is non-regulated. So it's definitely on the table, and it would just need to take some actions in getting the right players together.
Yeah, I mean, IIHS might be a great partner for something like this because they do a lot of testing, and they are increasingly evaluating ADAS systems, and perhaps as an independent third party, working with them to help them understand how these systems work and how best to evaluate them. I know every automaker loves to tout getting Top Safety Pick Plus. And so, maybe that's a path forward.
Yeah. And we've actually had detailed discussions with David Harkey from IHS on how to continue to collaborate based on what you just said. Is their footprint and their presence is very well felt in the industry. How could they help bring their guidance to maybe, pull the OEMs together, similar to what they did in, I forget what year it was, but pulling all the OEMs together and help really push for autonomous emergency braking. Mm-hmm. And, that was kind of the mandate or MOU that we all signed. And so maybe something similar could happen for this.
Yeah. Some sort of voluntary approach to it. And then, perhaps, if it's an industry-wide thing with a partner like IHS, then perhaps state governments could say, okay, if IHS is good with it, then maybe we'll be good with it. Because right now the only level 3 system on the market in the U.S. is the Mercedes Drive Pilot, which currently is only usable in Nevada and California.
Right. Oh. Yeah, and we've had some discussions with them, and how to expand it. And you're right, maybe using IHS is a good way to tackle that.
Okay. Well, are there any other things about this shift towards higher and higher levels of automation in consumer vehicles that we haven't touched upon that you'd like to maybe discuss before I let you go?
I think that just the evolution of safety technology is critical. We mentioned that this level 3 or the eyes off technology we announced at CES is another step towards that. The other areas, though, that we focused and kind of what stemmed from maybe this interview was, really focused on the educational piece too. And not only just how the systems work, but also how to curb risky behaviors. And, there's vehicle technology is great and is going to be needed for quite some time to get to our ultimate goal, which is to have zero traffic fatalities. But without having the customer or the consumer not have risky behavior, speeding, impairment, unbelted, distracted driving, right? It's going to be challenging. So we're really focusing on that piece as well. So the third piece then also, the technology, the education, and the third piece is what we call the traffic ecosystem. It's exactly what we just talked about. It's going out and collaborating with the other OEMs or IIHS or SAE and working together in a fashion that we're all moving towards the same goal, which is to have zero fatalities. So they're all intertwined. There's not one solution that fits, fits the mold, but it's all together. All three of those different pillars needed to work together to get to our ultimate goal, which is zero fatalities.
Okay. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.